Are there some rules to abide by when you're solo traveling?
We might think we know better because maybe we think we're well-traveled and stuff, but no lah, we don't.
Sarah, what's your take on the trends of traveling in 2025?
The value proposition is always like being cost savvy.
People are also looking at like more adventurous trips like hiking trips, looking at going to lesser known places like in Central Asia.
What if I think I'm adventurous, but then when I get there, then I'm not?
Jialat.
Jalan lah.
When you're traveling with your family or even with your friends, everybody wants to do different things. Then how? If you've ever dreamed of chasing stars on holiday or eating your way through a country, 2025 might just be your year. From astrotourism to food tours that make your taste buds travel, I want to find out where Wanderlust will take us this year. So we're diving into the latest travel trends with two seasoned travelers who can tell us how to hack it when we're traveling this year. On the usual place, I have Sarah Stanley, who covers travel at the Straits Times Life desk. And fun fact, she was once an air stewardess with Singapore Airlines. And I also have Hendric Tay, who is the co-founder of the Travel Intern. Now, you left your full-time job to run this content media agency and travel publication. And recently, the Travel Intern also started offering curated trips to places such as Nepal, Peru, and Central Asia. So you guys are like world travelers, huh?
Yeah, kicking it off
Wouldn't
with
say that, but
strong points.
we have been to a few places.
Yeah, okay. Well, welcome to the usual place. We're going to get into it all. But I wanted to kick it off by asking, what are Gen Zs and millennials looking for when traveling in 2025?
Based on what we have observed, I think generally they are looking for lesser known places. So more adventurous trips or even trips that are more activity focused. So things like snowboarding, diving, and people are looking at places that's further and further away. And of course, because of that, people are also looking at like more adventurous trips like hiking trips, looking at going to lesser known places like in Central Asia, which was why we also kind of started curating tours that brings people there, because people might not want to do it alone. So we also noticed that a lot of them are preferring to do it with newfound friends, in a way, because I guess when people grow up, some of their circle, right, starts to have different interests. So people might I want to do something adventurous, but I don't have and I don't want to do it alone, right? So they look for this kind of trips.
Okay. Very interesting point about newfound friends, because I will ask you about that later. But
Okay.
Sarah, what's your take on the trends of traveling in 2025?
Yeah, so I think Hendric, as he rightfully mentioned, people are going further. They want to go to more remote destinations.
They're giving up Japan.
They're still going to
Nah.
Japan.
Okay,
Yeah,
but this
for
is the
sure.
add-on. Like Japan is forever. Like
Yeah, forever. But maybe like people are exploring outside of Tokyo now, and like the Osaka and the triangle, right? I think people are looking outside of those places. So I've been hearing people go to like Okinawa, to Fukuoka, a bit further out from the cities. But also I think, I want to mention, like, I think across the board, whether you're Gen Z or millennial or any older or any younger, right, I think the value proposition is always like being cost savvy. Yeah, so I think like that's just something people look to is, can I do these trips on a budget? And like, I mean, do all my friends go on the same budget? That's another thing, right? Yeah, so cost savviness, and then I guess also like looking at more adventurous places for sure. That's something people are looking at.
when did we get so adventurous?
I think one thing we have also observed is that people like the idea of being adventurous more than being adventurous.
Oh,
So
explain, please.
So our theory, right, is that because of social media, everyone's kind of want to be stepping out their comfort zones, which is a great thing, and experiencing more stuff once they see people doing it. Then they see opportunities to go on such trips and they sign up for them. And I think it's good that people are stepping out of their comfort zones, but they also need to make the right preparations for it. So that's something that we're trying our best to educate.
Okay.
So I think, it's the idea of being adventurous.
Yeah. I was going to say that people used to describe like two different kinds of adventures, like the outsidey and the outdoorsy. I don't know if you've heard it before. No? So the outdoorsy person is the person who wants to like sweat it out, who's really in it for like climbing mountains and doing those treks. And then the outsidey person is like, I don't mind going for these things, but I want to come back to a hotel room.
Oh, I
Or,
just
you
want to
know,
like feel the sunshine.
I just want to take a little trek out and then get a car to bring me back to my, so I think there's two different kinds of people, and if you can put yourself in the right camp, you'll be better prepared for the kind of experience you want to go for lah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like some of our trips is like exactly
Yeah.
that. The Machu Picchu one, for example, you hike, but you come back to a very nice accommodation,
Yeah.
like a nice glass dome in the middle of
Yeah.
the mountains. Whereas the Nepal ones are a bit more rugged, where you after hiking you stay in like a guest house, a very
Yeah.
basic tea house. It protects you from the elements, but it's basic. So yeah, knowing which camp you belong to, I think that will help.
What if I think I'm adventurous, but then when I get there, then I'm not?
Jialat.
Jialat lah. No lah, you I guess you only really know when you
Yeah.
try. Yeah.
Okay. So where are we going to in 2025? Which are the hot destinations that you guys think will be it?
I think China is really up and coming. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of people instead of they still go to the main cities, so like Shanghai, Beijing, they're still hot. But people are going to Yunnan a lot. Yunnan, Lijiang, the Shangri-La, yeah. And I think there's a high-speed train that's almost done or going to, maybe it's done already. And that's going to connect the routes a lot more smoother and more conveniently for people to travel. So I think China's up and coming. I see Africa is up and coming too. I think the safaris, animals, reconnecting with nature is a big thing. So Tanzania and Kenya, seeing a lot of people go there. And then I guess also within the region, Thailand, Japan, they're always hot. So those I feel like will be trending line the next year. No matter what, people like to go out, immerse themselves in new experiences. Yeah.
I think Central Asia, we have been seeing quite a lot of people ask about it, even if they are not going on trips with us. And I think Saudi Arabia is pretty up and coming as well. They just opened up the tourism. There's a lot of efforts that the government is putting in to grow the tourism industry. And I just came back from there about a month ago. It's very nice, really, really very exciting.
Why have people not put Saudi Arabia on their list before? Like, what's new about it that is attracting?
I think largely is simply because they weren't allowed to. Like before 2019, you can't get a visa to get into Saudi Arabia unless it's for religious purposes. So then 2019, then COVID happened. So post-COVID, people are kind of just heading back to the places that they love. Our Japan, East Asia, Europe, things like that. And then now it's kind of like the right time since it's still growing and they're developing more of the infrastructure. I think it's quite a exciting destination for someone who wants to try a new place to check out.
What's the country like? What are the people like? What's the food like? Tell me.
It's a country in transition, coming from a more closed society to one that's a lot more open. What made me really love the place is that I think the general population, the women especially, and the youths, they're very excited because this is the first time in their lives that they're getting access to foreign media, a lot more foreign media, more entertainment options, and I think the energy is there because people are very excited for change that's coming. Right now, they have a city that has opened up fully to tourism. So beyond like the usual Jeddah and Riyadh, is this place called Al Ula. So Al Ula is quite cool because even to the Saudis, it was closed until around like 2018, 2019 or something. Right? It only fully opened up. And that whole place is super tourism ready already. What I loved about it is kind of like the vision of how they went about developing the destination because it being closed off, they also had the opportunity to like shape it in any way they want, right? So what they did was that I like that they kind of stuck to the roots, but still used like new media to tell the stories of a place. So for example, like in one of the old towns that they have, they remodeled the whole place because it was just in ruins, and instead of like being tacky with like theme park rides and stuff, right? They kind of built in interactive experiences. So there was this tour that we did. It was called the Incense Road tour. So that place in Al Ula was famous because it used to be part of. It was a very important city in the Incense Road, right? So they recreated a portion of that part in the old city. So you kind of get experience it, and they have live actors who are great at acting out their roles. So it's like you are traveling along the route, you meet these different people. You have your incense maker, you have your trader, you have the person making the camel traders and doing different kind of jobs. And they interact with you, they act out the roles. Then there's things that you can touch, smell. There's multimedia experiences. So they are trying to integrate a lot of these into the whole tourism experience. So which I thought was quite cool. Kind of like the right vision with how I think tourism can be done. So it's quite exciting to see, and hopefully they do that to more cities. And yeah, I think it'll be a lot to explore. Yeah.
And Sarah, I wanted to ask you, you talked about Yunnan, Lijiang. What is the appeal of these cities to younger people in particular, maybe?
Yeah, so I think a lot of these outskirts, they offer a lot of natural attractions that you might not see in the cities or that you're used to. So in Lijiang, for example, like it's called Jade Snow Dragon Mountain. You see, in Chinese, I know it, right? But then
What is it in Chinese?
Jade Dragon? Yusan.
Yusan,
I
is
think
it?
so.
Okay, anyway, it's like Jade Snow Dragon
sounds a
Mountain,
very
something
auspicious
like that. Jade Mountain. Okay, see, so it's one of those big natural attractions that when you go there, the water's turquoise, right? And then you just see towering cliffs all around you, and I think it gives you this sense of like, it's very surreal, right? So I think younger people are going there to appreciate the nature that you can't get in cities, and a lot of it is like the culture of the outskirts is very welcoming. It's like you go there, you have a sort of sense of familiarity with the food, because I mean Singaporeans love Chinese cuisine, right? So you go there, you already know like the food's gonna be great. You know the people are gonna be welcoming. You know you're gonna see like sights that you wouldn't usually see in the big cities. So I think that's what's drawing people on the outskirts. And then if you really wanted to head back to a city, right, there's always like some way to get back to Shanghai or Beijing. Yeah, so like it's that connectivity, I guess. Yeah.
So I often find that the conversation about Gen Z and millennial travel also involves like green travel, sustainable travel. Is that just a buzzword? Or like, how do you travel sustainably when you're on holiday and you're like thinking, do I want to like put this in the right bin? Like, I was like, just chuck it. Like, what's your take? Like, is it a possible thing?
I think for sure it's possible. I feel like maybe last time, and I've been talking to a lot of like hoteliers, right? I think last time the expectation was on the accommodation to get these green efforts out. But I think now, right, because of like social media, because of what you read, what you watch, you see climate change is a real thing, right? Like it was so hot. Like the beginning of this year was really, really hot. So I think people are actually experiencing the effects of what's happening in the world, and they're making the changes based on what they feel, what they experience. So green travel, right, I think instead of putting it on accommodations or tourism or tourist agencies to dole out those sustainability efforts, I think a lot of travelers are sort of making the right choices now. It's difficult and it's like not cost efficient sometimes.
What is the right choice?
Like okay, putting stuff in a bin, like in the right bin for one, right?
Okay, I'll do
That's
it.
I mean, that's a really low bar. And then also, I think a lot of hotels, they started with low-hanging fruit, like changing their plastics out, right? One single-use plastics out to glass bottles, and people aren't complaining about it as much, I feel. You know, you're just using it because it serves the same purpose. You're still drinking water in the room. You just have to maybe call for housekeeping a bit more. You want to refill you can't bring the bottle out. But people are okay with it, right? So I think in that direction of doing these small changes and being okay to make these changes, I feel like more travelers are open to it. And so it's pushing this like idea of sustainability in travel a bit further than it used to. That's my take. Yeah.
Maybe I come from a more skeptical side.
Oh, we're in the same camp. Are we?
No, I mean, we've been hearing sustainable travel for many, many years, right? But at the end of the day, what at least I've observed is that most people aren't willing to pay that additional amount just to make sure something is more sustainable. And it was a conversation that came up with my friends, my fiance, and all, like, where should the responsibility lie, right? So is the responsibility on the people or on the industries and big companies to make that change? And that's a bigger question I think we need to answer, because it's tough when you need to pay like 10-20% more to make that eco-friendly choice. And then imagine if you are a student, right, or fresh grad, you won't. It's unlikely that you might make that choice. Many do, but I think they still form a minority at this point.
So another trend I wanted to ask you guys about was, how big is solo traveling still among this age group of Gen Zs and millennials? Still a thing?
I think it's still big, but it has taken different forms, right? So solo travel could be about, hey, I don't know anyone and I'm just going on a trip to meet people. Solo travel could still be about, I'm just doing trips on my own. And I think it hasn't really changed too much over the years as well. Like, I think it's just generally as a young person or as anyone that's going through change, you want to experience new things. You have the luxury of time to, at least you have more luxury of time to experience stuff in ways that you might not want to be. Like if you're working, maybe you're just, oh, I'm just tired. I just want to have a nice family trip, right? And or like a nice trip with my friends. And I think that's great. But when you're younger, you have more headspace, maybe like more heart to go and like to go and explore and travel. So I do see as something that has been here for a long time and will continue to stay.
As long as you fall in a category where you have that freedom of time, like Hendric said, and you have like a bit more headspace to want to travel and not think about like the adulting burdens or whatever you want to call it, right? Then I guess solo traveling helps in that respect when you're younger because you get to explore without thinking about these things back home. But also I think people of an older age, when they have the money and the luxury of time when you're retired or when I guess you're okay to play around with your leave a bit more, people are still solo traveling. I don't think that's changed very much.
Don't they get bored when they solo travel? Because I tried to do it once. I think I went to Bali at the wrong time and it was just very rainy and I was stuck in the hotel, not eating any Balinese food, which was bad. I had to eat the hotel food, which was, what was it? It was acai and granola, and that was what was on the menu because they were catering to tourists, right? And I was like, oh no, and then I just had to sit with my thoughts, and I was like, yeah, count me out. Next one, I just need people. So I was like, yeah. So I like you were saying, the appeal of solo travel is they get. What do you think is the appeal of solo traveling?
I love solo traveling.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
different
I enjoy,
camps now.
Yeah. I enjoy traveling with people, but also like solo traveling because you really just get to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do. And I think planning for a solo trip is very different from planning for a trip with family and friends, right? When I'm planning for a solo trip, I will plan in moments of uncertainty. And kind of like you kind of engineer, put yourself in places where you will meet people. Whether it's like even at this age, I would stay in a hostel, but I will get my own room and then like a nice hostel, simply because there's a common area you can meet people. It's easy to meet people. You'll join activities and try to make more friends, and you're never really alone when you're solo traveling because you will meet people on tours, you will meet people on the streets, and actually sometimes when you're alone, you find that you talk to people more. At least I find that I talk to people more because while you want to be alone, you still want that human connection. So I find myself asking like local small questions. I find myself asking the tour operator small things, simply because like you don't have like your own group, your own inside jokes or stuff to fill up that gap.
Don't you think solo travelers are more adventurous than like people who are in groups? Like I think I'm a
Feel
social
attacked now.
person.
Yeah,
because
okay.
I'm like you, right? I prefer to travel in a group. Then I got safety and like numbers plus my friends are there. I don't have to make friends outside of the group. So I think for me, I wouldn't solo travel as often as I would travel with a group or with friends. Sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes I need to plan around like other people's interests and what they want to do and all that. But I think at the core of it, if you travel with people who are like-minded, you can still carve out time in a trip, right, that might make you feel like you're traveling solo, if that's what you want, right? If that's what you really want.
So you're saying like take some time out from the group trip and then like do what you want.
Yeah, but everybody needs to be on the same page. Like sometimes when you're traveling with family, that's not going to be possible. Like you need to take care of people. You need to be with your family because that's what a family trip is about. But I think if you're traveling with friends and you can make that kind of time in your trip itinerary or whatever, then being alone is not always the worst thing in those trips because you get the best of both worlds, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, you still come back to your friends, and then in those pockets of time, you find like a cafe and do what you wanna. Yeah, so I think there's a way to strike a balance. But I'm definitely on the go with friends or family type. Yeah,
and
travel.
then carve out this
And
time
then
out.
carve out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to travel solo, recommendations from you guys, which is a good country to start?
Safety is a priority, right, when you're solo traveling. But at the same time, I would say don't rule out some of the developing countries. Like my first solo trip, which I felt so safe and met the warmest people, was when I was traveling through China, Mongolia, Russia, and Korea.
Wow.
So,
But is it because you're a guy?
Yes, definitely. I think it takes away a lot of the risk factors for sure. So being a guy, I do have that privilege of being able to go to more uh, destinations. But I think the idea is more of like don't strike them off, because there would still be safe ways of like traveling to places alone. And I think but at the end of the day, it's what you're comfortable with. If not, you can it's also great to go back to like East Asia and the destinations that we are used to, because the experience doing it yourself will be so different.
Yeah, I think regional is always a safe bet. Like wherever you feel like you can resonate with the culture, and you don't feel like you need to adapt to something new so quickly. If you are that kind of traveler who is like who needs that form of familiarity, I think like Thailand, I think Vietnam is okay. Like anywhere you can backpack if you're that kind of outdoorsy kind of person. If not, Japan is a great one. China's a great one. Yeah, those few.
And just to add also, I think language would be a big plus. Like if somehow you know the language
Yeah.
of a place that you're going, or there will be enough people there who can speak English or whatever you are speaking, then that helps a lot, because then it makes it easier lah, just to talk to people.
Yeah, agree.
Are there some rules to abide by when you're solo traveling? I mean, when you guys have spoken to people who are solo travel, or even when you're on your own, like, are there some rules? Hendric, you look like.
Don't be stupid.
Please explain.
No, I think there's a fine line between being adventurous and being reckless. So always listen to what the locals tell you, right? If they say don't go to a place, don't go to a place. We might think we know better because maybe we think we're well traveled and stuff, but no lah, we don't. always listen to. It's better to be safer, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
I think we should always listen to any local advice, even if they might not resonate with what we usually would do. So I think having that common sense is important. And of course, there will be some practical things that we can do. For example, if you're going to be going to somewhere with a stranger, please inform people, right? Whether inform someone back home and inform like the hotel, the accommodation that you're going, so at least people know that if you're lost, what they should do. It could just be an accident. Maybe there's nothing, but yeah, little things like that. I think people have to take note.
I mean, going back to what you said about don't be stupid, do you have like an anecdote that you can share?
Anecdote lah. There's a story, right? So there was once when I was solo traveling in South America, right? I was in Ecuador. It's in Quito actually. And there was this lookout point at the top of a hill. I can't remember the name offhand, but basically there's this I think 15 minutes walk up the hill that one can take. But I was staying in a hostel back then, and the hostel owners were like, hey, no matter what you do not walk up the hill because you will be robbed when you're up there. And that's because like the lookout point is at the top of like the favelas. So yeah, but there were still people that I've heard and seen that decided to ignore the advice and walk up the hill lah. And the guy that I saw kind of got stabbed lah.
Stabbed. Okay.
So he was when I saw him coming back to the hostel, he was coming back to take his belongings, and he's still kind of all wrapped up. But fine already by then. But yeah,
Okay.
so that's what I mean by don't be stupid,
So listen to advice.
Yeah, listen to advice. People know better.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who stay there know better because they do this on the regular, right?
Yeah, they're not trying to get you to pay more money by taking a cab that they arrange for you. It is bad business for them if people get injured. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I went to Morocco, and I think vibes are also a thing because in Morocco, I was in Fez, and Fez is notoriously dangerous. So I stayed in the now I'm losing the word for it, but it was like the central area of Fez, in the
Like Old Town.
Yeah, in the old town part, and it's notoriously dangerous. So we stayed in a kind of like a B&B. It wasn't great actually. They really like jazzed up the pictures and to like make it look better. Like lighting makes a difference. But you just got like a very dangerous vibe when you went because it was all run by men. You never see the women, and then the guy was definitely trying to be pushy. So I think also you kind of need to sense check yourself if you don't vibe with the people, then because he was trying to push all these tours on us. So I think vibes for me would
Yep.
be like the sense check. Like if your spidey senses are like, oh no, this is
For
like not
sure.
right, then just don't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the fail safe, right, is Google. Yeah, like before you go, always research the place you're going to. Nowadays, reviews, right, people tend to be very very honest, brutally honest about what they experience. And like you can see from, I guess, the ratings, or if you really read reviews down to the T, right, you'll be able to like sort of get a better sense of who you should talk to, who you can trust, you know. Sometimes the locals can be trusted, like in your case, right? Then other times the locals can't really be trusted in your case. So I think like, yeah, if you fall back on reviews and like the general populations or the tourists like idea of like the place or experiences, I think it's also a good way to go lah. So like, sometimes your common sense is misplaced in a foreign destination, right? You don't know the culture and the place. So Google, yeah, that's my fail
Yeah,
safe.
do your research.
Do your research, yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now we've done solo traveling. I want to ask about traveling in a group. Okay, dynamics, a whole lot of different dynamics in there, right? How do you handle differences in traveling style or priorities within a group? As you said, right, when you're traveling with your family or even with your friends, everybody wants to do different things. Then how?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I should start by saying that when I first had a taste of of traveling a lot, right? It was when I was flying, right? And then I think most people know that in a cabin crew complement, if you go overseas, or maybe people don't know, I don't know. When you go overseas with that group that you fly with, there's a tendency to go out as a group as well. So I feel like because back then I was very young, I was like 20 and I just started. So I was very compliant, you know, like everywhere the group wants to go, I go. And I think that sort of molded my travel behavior. So I think as a traveler, I'm quite compliant, yeah, you know, and I'm quite adaptable to different people's behaviors in a group.
You were conditioned.
Yeah, I was conditioned, you know, yeah, from back then. But I think like even that being said, right, being compliant wasn't a bad thing when I was younger because I got to see different people's traveling styles. And then I sort of understood how I should behave when I'm in a group setting, when I'm traveling.
Like how?
So, for example, if somebody really, really is pushing to go to some place, right, instead of like drawing tension or like making it uncomfortable, right, sometimes we just say, okay, I go there for a while with you, you know, and then like if it's not my thing, then I'll just trail off lah, you know. But at least you're sort of like giving more than you are taking away from this person's suggestion, which I've realized like to appease people in the group, you want to come across as seeing like that you are okay. You know, you're not going to embarrass the person by saying, no, I don't want them, disgusting, you know, this place. You know what I mean? So like giving face lah, very important lah. But that's just me when I was growing up traveling. It was just to be adaptable and know that the people around you have their own things that they want to do and that you should be okay, you know, like trying some of these things out. And if you're not, it's okay lah, just break away later lah. You know, that was me lah. I know some people have different opinions,
I don't
maybe.
know. Do you have a different opinion?
Oh, not really. But I've never been in that specific setting because in a way there's some power dynamics
Yeah.
given like it's a semi work setting lah, right?
Yeah.
I guess in the friendship setting, it's just especially when I'm traveling with people for the first time, important to I guess set some ground rules, have some form of alignment before the trip. Even
Like
for
how? Because I'm also very compliant, but then when then I go on a trip, then suddenly I'm like, oh, okay, but I don't want to do this or yeah.
Yeah, so I think one thing that we ask is like what are some things that you die want to do, right? You must do. And I think regardless of what they are, if you sign up to go on a trip together, we should try to respect that lah. So let's say you can ask your friends, say, hey, what are 3 things that you really want to do on this trip? And then these are the 3 things, these are my 3 things, and do you want to do them together? And if yes, then I guess even if they're not interested, they kind of comply for a while, at least try it out,
Yeah,
right?
at least, yeah.
And then if it doesn't work for you, they can do their own thing after that. So I think that basic respect is important. But then you never know because people might react differently, right? People have different characters, especially if you're traveling with people for the first time. So I think one tip maybe, if I can call it that, is that you try to look for trips that are more activity focused, especially when you're traveling with someone for the first time, right? Like there's a bulk that's taken up. Maybe it's a hike. Maybe it's you're going snowboarding. Maybe you are going there to catch a concert, right? Or maybe consider doing shorter trips. So you just get a good sense, right,
Yeah.
of what everyone's travel patterns are like, because you really get to only know someone once you stay
Yeah.
with them.
I know. I've lost friends over this. Well, I actually traveled with a colleague, and then she was. I don't know. It was like a weird thing because she didn't want to pay for the cab. Because there were three of us, and then she would just sit in the cab while two of us like figure out like the taxi thing, or where we wanted to walk to see this like huge statue in this Jesus statue in Vietnam. I don't know if you guys know where it is. Can't remember where it is now, but it's a huge Jesus statue, and she was whining all the way because we walked. So me and my friend, who are great travel partners now, but we love to walk, so we'll just walk. But she was like, it's so hot and I need to stop. I want to go for a massage. And I was like, nope, not traveling with this person ever again. But it was just madness. But also we did not have this conversation about budget. No, it wasn't really about budget. It was more like how we split things and the activities, right? Like as you guys said, like, yeah. So speaking of budget, what's the best travel hack for, managing costs?
I like this app called Splitwise. There are variations of the app, but the Splitwise has worked quite well for me since a decade ago. So,
And
yeah.
how does it work generally?
You can basically, it allows you to split costs
As
in
to
a very
the
very
suggestion.
very very easy
Be
way.
wise about it.
Splitwise, yes.
Yeah, and
Splitwise.
it helps you be wise. No, I think the beauty of the app is that it kind of balances it out for you. So let's say person A pays something, person B pays something, person C pays something. The app will calculate based on who pays who and optimize and find the best way, so that at the end of the day, when you're settling accounts, you don't have to, I pay you this amount, then I pay that amount, then you can just settle up. And that's what they call it, settle up.
And good to know. Do you have the pro version?
No.
Okay, free version.
Yeah, free version
Yeah.
worked quite well.
All right.
Yeah.
So Splitwise, we're getting that.
Yes.
Sarah?
Okay, I think if you're traveling with people for the first time, maybe Splitwise is a good way to go. But when I travel with people I'm like comfortable with, like my best friends, for example, we all just like put it into a pot, And then at the end of the day, like things that we do together, like meals or activities or like ad hoc whatever's right, like desserts, then we pull from that pot. And that usually settles majority of it, because what do you really share when you're overseas? Like cab fare, right? Meals, and then maybe one or two activities. Then everything else we take it as like a pay as you go. Like we do our own thing. So I think that pot thing works for me when I'm traveling with people I know for a long time. Yeah.
Pod is really convenient, so you don't have to record down every single
Yeah.
thing.
Correct.
Yeah, because then it's just like, settled,
just
right? By the
evenly
end of the day.
lah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what if someone's very calculative? Then you're like, oh yeah, but I only had one bite.
Then they record. You know what I mean? Like,
Then
most of
when
us are
travel
not
together
interested.
again.
Yeah.
There you go. That's how you eliminate people. Just like, wow, calculative, no.
Yeah.
Princessy, no. Like, skip that. Yeah.
No, I assume if you're calculative, you're going to be okay with recording this down your notes. Because most of us, when we travel, we go there, we spend more money than we think we're going to spend as it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah, then like for us to actually go down to the cents and the dollars of it in a notepad, that just takes away from the holiday we're having. So I imagine calculative people might be okay doing that, but I'm not. Like I just choose the people I travel with, just period. So like I've never been in a situation where I've traveled with somebody I've just met not too long ago, for example. And then also, plus the fact that I'm compliant. So it just, it all just becomes like a very easy thing to travel. But I will say that when I travel with family and I've traveled with extended family, right, then it becomes super difficult to match everybody's like wants and needs lah. And then the quirkiness comes out in a sense that like every generation has their own thing they want to do, right? And then 2 or 3 will band together and they want to go and cosplay, for example. Yeah. Then how do I ask my auntie, you want to go to this cosplay fair or not? That's a bit difficult.
Was that a legit request? They suddenly wanted to cosplay as what?
Like go to a cosplay fair, like
I
a
see,
conference.
okay.
Yeah. But so people who do that, for example, they have it in mind that maybe when they go there, they want to buy something or dress up as something, right? So in those situations, I think it's very hard to match the expectations of everybody to want to go to a certain area. So you start to see what people like, what people don't like. And then some of these are a bit more out there than others. Yeah, then how do you navigate this? You just say
That's
you
really
go by
out there lah.
yourself.
To
Yeah, that's very out there.
cosplay. It's like
yeah.
on a whole different spectrum.
Yes, correct. So it's not something I do, but there are people who want to do that. It's just the wrong trip for it, I guess. Yeah, then you just manage like, okay, I'll go by yourself. Yeah, then they just do. At the end of the day, I think it's just respecting lah. That if they want to do it, they gotta do it. Then the rest of us will make do lah and do other things.
Okay, I have a question about should you travel with your colleagues or not?
But don't you travel with your colleagues as like
Yeah,
a,
okay,
but we
this is for
travel
the
for
job,
work.
but this is for
yeah,
work, like for
work.
holiday,
You mean like for
yeah.
leisure?
Yes, no, ready.
I think yes. I think it's okay, but I think it's always that degree of how close you are. And like, I mean, when you go for a trip, right, you need to be willing to accept the consequences that come with a trip, right? Which are like, you might not be very close like, at the end of this, right? And then worse still is like, if you go with a colleague who maybe you work very closely with, and then when you come back, you gotta be prepared. The dynamics might be different. They
Yeah, 'cause you
each other
see how they
differently.
live.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think for most part, if you're willing to accept those consequences and like your level of tolerance very high, like all of us apparently, then
No, all of the two of
you
y'all
also said
apparently.
what? Your
Yeah,
tolerance
okay,
quite
fine,
high.
but yeah, my tolerance was quite high.
Oh,
Now
was?
I'm just like, all right, yeah. Like I
Yeah.
traveled with a friend to Japan and she snores so badly. Like it was so loud and I was just like, I was so tired in Japan. Like so I tagged on to a work trip and she came and joined me. She joined me after my trip. And I was so tired and she just snored throughout. And it was just like, yeah, no, I can't do this trip with you unless you get your own room. And if you're going to a very expensive destination, then it's just not like cost feasible to, yeah. So I was like, no, you either fix it or you don't. So I don't remember we traveled after that. Yeah, I can't remember if we traveled after that.
Did you know before the trip though that she snored?
Yeah, I think we've traveled before, but that in Japan it was just me and her. Usually there was someone else with us, but when we were in Japan, it was just the two of us. I don't know, was the roof very small or what, but it was very loud, and I was like,
see.
I can't deal with this. Like I just cannot deal with this. Yeah, because I was awake. Because
Right.
I'm a very light sleeper, so I'm like, yeah.
okay,
So I think
yeah.
that would be a deal breaker for me if anything lah to travel with.
Okay,
someone.
so I have a story. It's not mine. It's secondhand story.
Okay, tell me.
So I have friends, like ex-colleagues who travel together overseas, and then one of them in the group has to constantly call back home.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's a
Call who,
long
call who?
call, like spouse or family, you know, and it's a long call. And usually, I think it's very acceptable that you need to call home to like maybe talk, chat, and like keep up or whatever, right? But this one will be like hours at a time, and it's always loud, and it's always never in the room. So it's like you want everybody to hear, you know, your what's going on at home, and like, oh, pape, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, do you really? Yeah. So I think in those situations, in those
I'm
situations,
dying.
I know. So like, what do you tell this? Like, can you go into the room? Like, I don't want to hear you talk about this. You can't really either. So I think maybe it's a common sense thing also lah. Like when you talk, you want to be in a private space. But in this case, it wasn't, and people could hear the conversation, and it was every day. Yeah. So
For hours? Did this person not want to go out and see the city or wherever they were?
I don't know. I don't know what the considerations were, but it was just like, I need to talk to somebody back home. And when I do, I want it to be a long drawn conversation. And it was like always was, and it was always something that everybody else was aware of. And people were uncomfortable with it, but it still happened. Yeah. So
Work friends.
work friends, yeah. Colleagues, yeah. So I mean, needless to say, when they got back, it was a bit odd. Like, yeah, they just didn't. You can't choose the people you work travel with, but in this case, when they got back, they started like distancing a little bit, you know.
Oh dear.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
not to me, but I've heard of these situations, I guess.
So I guess the other tip would be to be a bit self-aware of when you're traveling with other people in general, whether they are friends or people you're traveling with for the first time, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Self-awareness is a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys are the travel pros. Where is one country or city that you can always go back to?
For me, I think one place would definitely be Japan. I think that's also one of the reasons why I do plan to move to Japan in a couple of years. I think it's a huge country. There's a lot more to explore beyond the usual cities that we go, and a lot of them are kind of gatekeep because of language, right? So
Do
I
you
love-
speak Japanese?
I'm learning.
Okay.
I'm
That
learning.
helps.
I'm starting. I'm early stages, but yeah, starting. And I love the food. I love the different subcultures there. So it's a place that I think every time when you go back, there's something new to explore. So it's quite fresh in that sense, and it's still a big country. A lot of outdoor stuff that usually tourists don't get to do if they don't really know the language. So I think that's something that I'm keen to explore more of in the future.
Is there a particular town or city in Japan that, keeps calling you, come back?
No,
Hendric?
not really. I think generally, because they are all very regional, right? It's a very mountainous country. So somehow I think over the years, people have grown their own unique cuisines, their unique cultures, and they have their little niches everywhere. So it's nice to go back because generally they have the themes and the food style is very palatable to me. So I really enjoy Japan.
And you're talking about activities that are accessible only if you know the language. Is there anything in particular that...
Hiking mainly. Like I really, really love hiking. I only remembered it recently because I was doing a hike in Hong Kong. It was a pro bono thing with YMCA. And there were moments where I found myself alone, not doing anything. Then I really loved it. So it reminded me of how much I love hiking. So yeah, I would like to do more hiking in Japan.
Sarah?
Nice. So he took Japan. So I'm
Oh,
gonna.
was that going to be your answer?
Yeah, I think
that you
Japan is
always go back
nice.
to? Okay.
Yeah, I mean the food mainly. Food. People are polite. The streets are clean. I guess those simple things make the destination very easy to go back to. But another one for me is Australia. Yeah, so I'm a big wine girly. So anywhere in the valleys, like we don't have the luxury of space here. So when we really head out to these places where it's like endless green fields and you just see vineyards everywhere, I think it makes a difference in how relaxed you are as a person. For me, that works lah. So anywhere in Australia that a wine valley is within driving range, I'd love that. Like Melbourne, Perth, yeah, these are places I go back to.
Adelaide. I went to
Yes.
Penfolds. Oh, it was one of the
really?
best things. Yeah, and then I went to lavender fields around the
Oh.
area. So like, sip wine.
Yes, that's my vibe.
You're very fancy. My pick was going to be like Bangkok. I'm like basic that way, but I'm like, Bangkok is my city. Like, I
Bangkok's
would
good.
just go there to get
Yeah.
to disappear. Like, if you just want to disappear in Bangkok and not have anyone bother you, and you want to do fun things and like just walk around, look at people, Bangkok is it for me. Like, eat well. Yeah,
eat well.
Yeah, eat
Eat
well.
well,
Top
yes.
tier, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just like, Bangkok.
Yeah.
I'm there. Anyone's like, you want to go Bangkok? Yeah, I can do it. Yeah.
You do a weekend trip in Bangkok.
Yeah, why not?
Like just 2 days, just go there.
That's my travel. It's like if you got fun people, if you know you're gonna have a good time, I'm
Yep.
there. Like
Yep.
that's my motto. I mean, do you guys have
Yeah.
a travel motto?
Have common sense and have fun, I guess. Yeah.
See, tattoo that because common sense is not common.
Have common
Yes.
sense, yeah. Use Google, I guess.
Yeah. Hendric, what's your life motto when traveling?
I think it's also very similar to my life motto. Is basically try new things. And I like one of the reasons why I'm in the travel space is because it gives you the most opportunities to try new things. So I think whenever you're traveling, it's nice to still have like the thing to do things that we know we love as like a base. But whenever possible, I always like to try something new. So that's what I encourage others to do too. Try new things.
So hopefully you guys have inspired some people to start booking their trips today after this podcast episode drops. And thank you guys for sharing your experiences. And so before we go, I need to give a plug to Sarah's article. So she wrote one on December 30th last year, and now she has one out on Jan 6th this year about destinations and trends. So if you want to read that, head to the Straits Times website. And that's it for today. So thank you very much for coming on The Usual Place. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, like, subscribe, or hit the notification bell to get fresh content. And you can also catch The Usual Place on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on the ST app. I'll see you next time.